'Twas the week before the Oscars, and everyone shouted, "Hooray!" From LA to Fresno, San Diego to the Bay. The media was flying, the Critics' Choice and BAFTA passed, as we waited for dear Oscar to see who gets Best Picture at last. The nominations are flowing, The Power of the Dog with 12 noms, as in this video we look back at the past to see what the big show has got wrong. Through 93 years there have been boos and some cheers. Wins like The Godfather and Birdman have brought us joyous cheer, while Crash and Green Book have made us wish for something else that year. But what of those movies, the actors and such, that the Academy saw and thought a nomination was too much? It's Oscar season, everyone, and like in the poem just read, we are 1 week away from the 94th Academy Awards. We get some fun things this year, like the return of hosts, and extremely frustrating things. This year's frontrunner is The Power of the Dog, and while it wasn't my favorite, personally I'm rooting for Belfast first and Coda second, it has been crushing it at all the award shows. But we're not here to talk about this year's award show. There have been many decisions over the years where I've sat there scratching my head saying, so why wasn't this nominated? There have been tons of videos talking about Oscar snubs over the years, but I wanted to share mine. While some of them are very well known, I hope to bring up some more that not everyone knows or thinks about. So let's start giving out some awards. Before we get into the actual list, I want to give an honorable mention to 2 performances by Ewan McGregor, who I think should have at least 2 Best Actor nominations to his name. First of all, I think Ewan McGregor is the most underrated actor working today, and I think he deserves some nominations in the early 2000s. One, for 2001's Moulin Rouge. I actually preferred him to Nicole Kidman's, who got a Oscar nomination for Best Actress. I think he shows a lot of range and emotion in it. And 2, for 2003's Big Fish. The performance reminded me a lot of Tom Hanks' performance in Forrest Gump. That won an Oscar, so why not give this one a nomination? Let's start off with probably the most infamous Best Picture snub of all time, 1989's Do the Right Thing. At the surface level, this movie's about the people of Bed-Stuy on the hottest day of the year, and the different forms of discrimination they face, but this movie has such a deeper meaning to it. Personally, I think this is the most culturally relevant movie of the 20th century. People, especially people of color, have been facing discrimination for decades, and the fact that the movie is in the 80s and is still showing what's happening on the streets today is terrifying. We see how people like Sal, the pizzeria owner, can be seen as okay at first, but when provoked, their true colors show. Also, if you still don't see the relevance to today, read this article by Jada Yuan, where she talks about the death of Radio Raheem to a very real, very scary death that happened not but a few years ago. This movie only received 2 nominations at the 62nd Academy Awards, one for Spike Lee's original screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor for Danny Aiello. I think that's just insane. It should have at least been nominated for 5 awards. For starters, the movie should have won Best Picture, Spike should have been nominated for Best Director, and Public Enemy should have received a Best Original Song nomination for Fight the Power. But that's just my opinion. So let's say in some crazy world, the Academy stays with only the 2 nominations for Do the Right Thing. Okay, whatever. But then, how do you go 24 years later and ignore basically the same exact film again? The Wikipedia description for Fruitvale Station describes it as the story of the death of Oscar Grant in 2009 by BART police officer Johannes Messerly at the Fruitvale District Station of the Bay Area Rapid Transit System in Oakland. Now, I had to watch this for a film class, and when watching, I could not believe the parallels between this and Do the Right Thing. Before we go into the comparisons, I just want to say Fruitvale Station is based on a true story, and Do the Right Thing is a work of fiction. Both Oscar and Mookie, the main character of Do the Right Thing, work minimum wage jobs, Oscar being a grocery store clerk and Mookie being a pizza delivery man. In addition, both have one kid and are in a relationship with a Latina woman. The difference in these movies is who dies in the end. Oscar Grant is fatally shot by a police officer, and it's not Mookie but Radio Raheem who is killed in Do the Right Thing. Both Do the Right Thing and Fruitvale Station talk about police brutality. In Fruitvale Station, they actually show footage of the real-life Oscar Grant right before the impending outcome is shown. Fruitvale Station was released in 2013 during the time where a lot of victims of police brutality were being brought into the public and making it more well known that this is occurring, and somehow the Academy saw this and didn't think it was good enough or relevant enough to give it a nomination because it got nothing. There are 3 awards that it definitely could have been nominated for. First of all, it should have been nominated for Best Picture, and along with that, Ryan Coogler, who directed the movie, also should have been nominated for Best Original Screenplay. And if you want to add on to that, you could have given Michael B. Jordan a lead actor nomination. If you don't think things have changed from the time Do the Right Thing was released in 1989, look at this movie that came out in 2013 to show what happened just 20 years after Do the Right Thing was released. At the 77th Academy Awards, the Michel Gondry-directed film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind received 2 nominations. Kate Winslet was nominated for Best Leading Actress, and screenwriter Charlie Kaufman won the Best Original Screenplay award for his screenplay about former lovers erasing their memories of each other. A beautiful story, and at one point was one of my favorite films. There were definitely more actors that could have been nominated besides just Kate Winslet. Along with Winslet, I definitely think that both Jim Carrey and Kirsten Dunst should have been nominated in the Best Lead Actor and Best Supporting Actress categories. First of all, answer me this question. How often do you see Jim Carrey in a serious role? The answer is not enough. I've definitely felt like Joel before, a man that was once empty, then fell in love, felt alive, got into fights, acted on impulse, and then thought, did I make the right decision? By the time that he chose to fix that problem, it was too late. This is a role that everyone can relate to. Did I do too little? Say the wrong thing? Should I do this experiment? I thought it was tough to watch at some points if you've ever felt that way. On the other hand, Kirsten Dunst is an interesting case. I've seen a couple people agree with me about her role in the movie. One person actually says the movie doesn't work without her, which is interesting, especially if you've seen the movie and know about the ending, as she is the one who sends out all the tapes to their owners. And when you find out that she's also a patient of the experiment and not even really a willing participant in it, it kind of breaks your heart. She definitely could have made a run at Best Supporting Actress that year. While Eternal Sunshine could be considered sci-fi adjacent, we're going to dive right on into sci-fi horror for this next movie, Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man. The horror genre rarely gets love at the Academy, and that's a shame, because it brings us some wonderful and great performances and movies. To start things out, give Leigh Whannell a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination. He took a classic story and made it into a terrifying one of escaping an abusive relationship and how money and technology continue the torment. Speaking of escaping an abusive relationship, we gotta give a round of applause to Elizabeth Moss for her harrowing portrayal of Cecilia Cass. And we see her go through so many different stages of emotional damage. We see her start off as escaping her abuser, then a psychologically damaged woman scared of her own shadow, barely able to exit a house, followed by being seen as crazy for seeing things that no one else can, and finally a woman who's had enough and takes matters into her own hands to fight back against her abuser. Also, one of the main characters is literally called the Invisible Man. Give this a VFX nomination. The Critics' Choice wasn't afraid to nominate it, and we've seen things like Ex Machina win, so it doesn't have to be something huge like Mad Max or Star Wars to win. Why are you afraid, Academy? Chicago happens to be one of my favorite movies of all time, so this one just irks me a bit more. For the longest time, I never understood how Richard Gere didn't get a nomination for his portrayal of Billy Flynn, and John C. Reilly did. Then, through research from Reddit, podcasts, and Wikipedia, it came to my attention that Miramax campaigned him as a lead due to Billy Flynn being a lead role in the original Broadway show. However, I still believe that this is a female-driven movie, and Gere is in a more supporting role in this film. From All I Care About to We Both Reached for the Gun, Razzle Dazzle, and the tap dance courtroom scene, he's such a scumbag, but he's also extremely captivating. If he was nominated in the supporting role, he definitely would have beaten Chris Cooper, who won for playing a quote-unquote Florida man in Adaptation. Hey look, Spike is back. This time, Spike's back with some former Vietnam War vets trying to find the remains of their fallen brother in Da 5 Bloods. This film is actually pretty divisive. While I enjoyed it, I gave it a 9 out of 10 on IMDb, I heard a lot of people say it was too slow and boring. Critics ended up liking it though. The ensemble was nominated at SAG and Critics' Choice, on top of the Critics' Choice giving it 5 more nominations. This includes the late Chadwick Boseman in a supporting actor nomination, and the 2 nominations I believe the Oscars should have added to Terrence Blanchard's Best Original Score. Newton Thomas Sigel in Best Cinematography, and Delroy Lindo for Best Actor. So, to start off with Delroy Lindo, this was a career performance for him, a man suffering from PTSD and missing his friend Stormin' Norman. Also, I wasn't a Trump guy, but I was glad that the one detail didn't define his character like it could have in other films. You definitely could have made an argument to replace Gary Oldman and Mank for Lindo. Secondly, I thought Newton Thomas Sigel's cinematography got overlooked. It was so cool to see different aspect ratios, especially when transitioning between the present day and back in the Vietnam War. Made me feel like I was watching an old, documentary or video. We don't go back too much in time for this next one. For this one, we're going back to the 92nd Academy Awards to talk about Celine Sciamma's 2019 period drama, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I have a thing for lesbian period dramas. I actually have 2 in my Letterboxd favorites, this and Carol. You should go follow me there, thanks. Between the very fascinating story of 2 women falling in love, the weird way their love began, and the wonderful acting, especially by Noémie Merlan, I couldn't believe that France didn't submit this as their submission for Best International Feature. There was no way it would have won. Parasite was a Best Picture nominee, and even eventual winner, but you could have thought that it would have given some competition to it. Also, this should have gotten Best Cinematography just based on this shot alone. The final movie I have to talk about is Pedro Almodovar's The Skin I Live In. This is actually tied with David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo for my favorite movie of 2011. Similar to how Suspiria made ballet scary, The Skin I Live In, or La Piel que Habito in Spanish, takes the concept of a plastic surgeon and makes it terrifying. But in a good movie. I'm looking at you, Tusk. It is a story of a grieving father, revenge, sex, power, and a great twist in the middle. This movie won Best Film Not in the English Language at BAFTA, and was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at both Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice. Plus, Almodovar is no stranger to the Oscars. 3 of his movies have been nominated for Best International Film, and other movies like Voltaire and Parallel Mothers have received acting nominations from the Oscars. So having an established director with Academy experience and hitting every predecessor beforehand, how did this movie not get an international feature nomination? But anyway, that's just what I think. From America to Spain, from France to Down Under, the Oscars tried to prevent more than one blunder. So how will nominations be in 2023? Hopefully no F-ups, and we'll all go yippee! Just so you know, before we say goodbye, I can get my own prize if you like and subscribe.